on our Zoom platform and also YouTube.
Hello, everybody.
I hope we are audible to all of you. So, students, we've called up this workshop precisely for PSIR Answer Writing, and as many of you must be our old students also who've done your foundation courses on PSIR already. And we believe very strongly that this period, this 6-month window which we have right now, that's from July to December, is a very critical window in which you can focus on your optional enrichment and develop answer writing abilities. And then you can focus, primarily the focus can shift to prelims thereafter. So therefore, we've designed a course for that particular purpose, master course on PSIR answer writing. And both of us, myself, Iqbal Singh, and Dr. Sushant Verma, my esteemed colleague, both of us are faculty members of Political Science and International Relations at the Institute here, and we will both conduct this particular course. Both of us will take the classes on all the PYQs and also the answer writing discussions, and we will conduct the course. So the purpose of this workshop right now is a very brief discussion we'd like to have with you. We'll tell you about this particular course because it's the first time we're introducing this particular course. So you must be all having a lot of doubts regarding this. So we will give you a brief overview of what the course is and how do we intend to help you with answer writing. And then also briefly, I'll tell you about certain basic tips what you should follow in our answer writing as far as paper 2 is concerned. And sir would also like to help you with the answer writing on political science as well. So that's the purpose of the workshop today. So let's start the workshop. Fine. So let's start it. So initially, I'll spend some time with you, and then Sushant sir can walk in, and then so you can join us after some time.
Iqbal sir will be discussing about paper 2 and the general aspects of the course, and then I will come and discuss about paper 1, and then in the end we'll be taking up Q&A, question and answers. Any doubt, any clarification you need to have regarding this course, we'll be taking care of that. Okay.
Let's do it. So let's start. Can you just minimize the YouTube window? So all our online students, I'd like to request that please switch on our cameras, all of you, if you can. It would be better to interact with your lovely faces rather than interacting with black screens. So let's make it more interactive. So please switch on our cameras, all of you. So students, first of all, you must know that this is the title of the course, Master Course on PSIR Answer Writing. So students, I believe all of you have a target plan in your head. And I believe that if you have seen failure this year in the prelims examination, then I'm sure you must be targeting next year's attempt. That in 2027, you would like to write the mains examination and ace this exam and get selected also. So if that is your target plan, if you want to succeed in 2027 and score 300 plus marks in the PSIR optional paper, which is very much achievable, then this is the right time to start. This is the time when you have to start. You cannot waste any time. If you want to get good rank, if you want to get good service, if you want to get your name in that list of selected candidates, list of recommended candidates, then this is the time when you have to start. Because you have 6-month window right now. From July to December, this is 6 months, you can focus on your optional writing, you can focus on your optional revision, and you can make sure that by the time you end this year, your optional is already prepared and you're already exam ready. And then you can focus 100% on the prelims preparation. And with God's grace and with your hard work, if you're able to qualify the prelims exam, you're already done with your optional. So you're already exam ready as far as optional paper is concerned. And then that gives you the right platform to focus on your mains preparation. And with a lot of self-confidence and a lot of strength, you move towards preparation for mains examination. When your optional is already ready, your answer writing is already done. So in order to help you do that, that's why we've introduced this particular course. That is the reason why we have done this. This is the ideal time to start such a course, ideal time to start this exercise. And that's what we have done. And it's a very elaborate course. As far as this particular course is concerned, in this course, what are we going to do? First of all, and this is not working. So sorry for the delay. There's some technical glitch. Let me fix this so that I can explain to you. So students, as I've told you that this is the time when you have to start this particular program. It's this 6-month window. You cannot afford to miss this particular window. So first of all, students, you need. It's very important to do PYQs. Doing PYQ discussions, mastering PYQs, previous year questions is very important, because I'll tell you why. Because we've noticed this particular tendency which UPSC has, that UPSC has been constantly repeating the same themes in the PSIR exam. You keep on getting the same questions, and if of course the language of the question may change, but the themes, common themes, they get repeated every year. Every year we have noticed that in the PSIR paper, the similar themes, they get repeated. It's very important to identify those themes. Now, how can you identify those themes? You can identify those themes by doing an elaborate discussion of previous year questions. By mastering previous year questions, you can identify all those themes which are likely to get repeated in the examination. And a smart aspirant, an aspirant who has a proper target plan to succeed, to be successful in this particular examination, already know about those themes. Already is very well aware about the theme, that in this particular chapter, these are the themes which are likely to be asked, and therefore structure the entire preparation accordingly. And that is what you need to do as well. And you can do that by doing elaborate discussion of previous year questions, which we will do with you. We will have PYQ classes every weekend. Every weekend, we will have a PYQ lecture with you. It will be an online live lecture for all of you, which you can attend. And of course, you would also get a recorded version of that, but we will like you to participate in the live discussion. So every weekend, we will have a lecture on previous year questions, in which we'll discuss previous year questions chapter-wise. We'll pick up a couple of chapters every weekend, and chapter-wise, we'll do PYQ discussions. And also, the entire test series is integrated with the PYQ discussion. Now, for example, if we have the PYQ lecture on Saturday, then Sunday we will have the test for the same topics. Same topics, weekly tests will be conducted. So you would already know, in 1 week in advance, we'll tell you that which are the 2 chapters we're going to pick up this week. And those 2 chapters will have a PYQ lecture on it, followed by a test, and then a test discussion. This is an exercise which we'll do every weekend for you. Therefore, in total, we intend to have 20 weekend lectures on previous year questions with you. I can promise that there would be more than 20 only, but at least 20 would be there. So these are, we're going to have these PYQ discussions where we will discuss with you that what are the themes which are getting repeated every year in the question paper from a particular chapter, how to attempt such questions, what should be your approach, what is the requirement of the examination, and how can you structure your answers. Everything will be in detail, and of course the content also will be discussed. One more thing I would like to clarify here for you: this course is only for answer writing, which includes previous year PYQ discussions and test series. This course does not include teaching of the topics. So you should not have any such misunderstanding that, we're going to study PSIR topics. We assume that if you are joining this particular course, we assume that your political science and international relations syllabus is already complete. You have already done your classes. You are already very well aware about the topics. And then we are now taking you to the next level. Now you're taking to the next level, and the next level is that how to develop answer writing skills, how to write best possible answers, how to ace the exam. So we're going to take you to the next level in this particular course. In this particular course, there would not be teaching of topics. So if any one of you, online students also, if you have not done PSIR, if your PSIR syllabus is not complete, if you have not done classes of PSIR, or you are not very well aware about the political science and IR syllabus and have not understood the topics, then this course may not be ideal for you. Then we will not be able to help you, because we will have PYQ lectures, but in the PYQs, we will not explain topics to you. For example, if there's a question on realism asked in the exam, that what is the difference between classical realism and neo-realism? If this question this is one of the PYQs, what is the difference between what Morgenthau had said and what Kenneth Waltz have said, classical realism and neorealism. Now that question I will discuss in the class. I will tell you what points you can include in this particular question, what should be the structure of the answer, and also how can you write subheadings, and what important points and scholarly viewpoints and expert viewpoints you can include, and what contemporary examples you can give. So the entire structure of the answer, what should be your approach, how can you attempt this particular question, I will explain then in the class. But I will not teach what is classical realism and neorealism. That teaching will not happen. That I assume that you know already. So we cannot teach all the topics in 20 lectures. So you need to understand these are PYQ lectures. These are not lectures to teach you topics. That we assume that you already have done that, because this is the next level course. It's not the foundation course. So in the foundation course, we teach topics. 6 months we teach you all the chapters, all the topics. That has already been done. Now this is the next level. So that is one thing you need to take into consideration. So that is what we will do in these 20 classes. All PYQs for all the chapters. For all the chapters of the syllabus, all previous year questions we will discuss in the classes. I will let you know this, what should be your structure of the answer, what should be your approach, what points you should use, everything we will discuss. Once this exercise is done, then as I told you, PYQ classes is integrated with the test series itself. It's going to be around 6 months, 6.5 months that you're going to spend time with us. That's the duration of the course, in which we will intend to conduct 22 tests in total. Now, these 22 tests, these are all theme-based tests. How are we going to divide that? Because a lot of you may have this query also that why I haven't given you a breakup of the test, that for what topics the test would be there. The breakup has not been given. Why? Because we will be theme-based test in which we'll pick up chapters and then chapter-wise we will do the test. And that is why we're keeping it flexible also as per the needs and requirements of the students as well. So these 22 tests will include 16 weekly theme-based tests. Every weekend there would be a test. Every weekend, there are 2 things you'll have to do with us. There will be one PYQ lecture, and then there will be a test also. It will be a small test, 40 to 50 marks, in which we will discuss, we will have only 2 to 3 questions related to the chapters which we have picked up for that particular week. And we'll tell you 1 week in advance. 7 days in advance, we will tell you that this next week, these 2 chapters we're going to pick up, so that you can use the weekdays to revise those chapters. And then on the weekend, we discuss the PYQs, and then you give a test also. So that is what we have designed for you, so that during the weekdays from Monday to Friday, you spend time revising those 2 chapters. On the weekend, you attend a PYQ lecture on those 2 chapters. And then on Sunday, you give a test. So that is how it will be done. So it will be integrated with the PYQ discussion itself. So 16 such weekly theme-based tests will be conducted. Then 4 sectional tests would be conducted. These sectional tests are going to be more elaborate. They're going to be more elaborate, which will have bigger syllabus, 200 marks, 250 marks. We will have pick up like 7, 8, 9, 10 chapters, and we'll club them and we'll conduct sectional tests for you. Again, theme-wise. And then we will also have the followed by full-length tests. So in total, 22 tests would also be conducted, and then test discussion lectures would also be provided to you. And all these classes and lectures will be conducted by myself and Sushant sir only. Both of us we will conduct the entire course. So that is the whole plan which we will have for you. There'll be every week we'll pick up 2 chapters and we'll discuss all PYQs, followed by a weekly test, then the sectional test, and then the full-length test. So you'll be attending around 20 to 30 lectures with us on previous year questions and test discussions, and also the weekly tests and the sectional tests and the full-length test series and previous year question discussion is integrated into the same course. So that is how we intend to cover this. So these are the basic features of this particular course, and that's why we've named it as Master Course on PSIR Answer Writing, because when I talk about answer writing, so me and Sushant sir, we were wondering that how can we teach students answer writing if we do not know about previous year questions? So it has to be integrated. They should know the demand of the paper. They should know what are previous year questions, what sort of themes are asked, and they should structure their preparation accordingly. Then only answer writing also makes sense. So that is why we integrated the 2 PYQ discussions and test series. A 6-month-long test series have been integrated into the same particular course, Master Course on PSIR Answer Writing. So that's what we have done for you, and this will greatly help you develop answer writing skills and answer writing abilities. And one more thing, students, if you, with a lot of discipline and passion and diligence, if you follow this entire course and follow our advice, within 6 months, your PSIR syllabus would also be covered. The entire revision of the syllabus will happen, because if every week you pick up 2 chapters and you do PYQs and test writing, by the end of 6 months, your entire syllabus would be done. So by the end of December, your optional syllabus is done, your revision is done, your memorizing is done, your PYQ is complete, your answer writing is complete, your optional is already ready, you're already exam ready. And that is the purpose of this particular course. And then 100% you can shift towards your prelims preparation, qualify prelims, and then you are ready for mains examination. So that's the strategy which you need to follow. Don't waste these 6 months. If you waste these 6 months, then you will be in a very bad position. You will be very bad. Even if you qualify the prelims examination, you will not be able to qualify the mains examination. There's so many examples we see every year. Students do qualify prelims, but they fail in the mains because they were not mains ready. Somehow their prelims clicked, but their optional was not ready, their essay was not ready, their ethics was not ready, GS papers were not ready, and they were not able to perform well in the mains examination. So there has to be a 1-year plan, a structured plan if you want to qualify this exam. So this is the 6-month window in which you have to focus on your mains preparation, which includes optional, which also includes GS mains also, ethics as well, essay also. And then you can full throttle shift towards prelims preparation. And then once you qualify prelims, then you have no problems writing mains also, because why this need to be done? One more thing I need to highlight for all of you, the whole structure of the exam is changing every year. And one big change which we are noticing is that the gap between the prelims examination and the mains examination every year is shrinking. It's around 2.5 months right now. If you see from the prelims result to mains exam, it's around 2.5 months. So that 2.5 months is not sufficient to do answer writing, is not sufficient to do optional revisions. This you have to do everything in advance. So that is why this is very important. So that's how we intend to do this, and this would be the basic outline of this particular course which we intend to have with you. Also, students, one more thing is that, just before I move on, I would like to tell you that why answer writing is also important as far as PSIR is concerned. That also I'd like to help you understand. And why answer writing is so important, students, and if you're my old students, you already know this, and I've already explained this to you so many times, that, there is a lot of overlapping which is there as far as PSIR syllabus and the GS syllabus is concerned. A lot of overlapping is there. Polity topics are similar. PSIR paper 1 section B, Indian government and politics, is very similar to your polity topics of your GS paper. Similarly, your PSIR paper 2, the entire PSIR paper 2, which is about international politics, international relations, is very similar to your GSIR topics. So because the syllabus overlaps, therefore students, they end up having an advantage in the GS, of course. That's good. But they make a mistake also. They make this mistake. They end up writing GS-like answers in the optional examination. And that is one mistake which they make, which is a very big blunder, because of which they will never get good marks in the optional paper. GS requirement is very different. Optional requirement is very different. The topic may be the same. Syllabus may be the same. Chapter may be the same. You have India-Pakistan in GS also, India-Pakistan relations in PSIR optional also. But the requirement is very different. GS requirement is not as high or as challenging as far as the optional requirement is concerned. So that difference you need to bring in. You cannot end up writing GS-like answers in the optional paper. That you cannot do. So there has to be a distinction between your GS answers and optional answers. You should know what is the precise requirement of the optional answer. And that's what I would like to tell you also. In the GS paper, if it is, for example, general studies, in the general studies, if you get an IR question or you get a polity question in your GS paper, which is on the same theme, on the same chapters, which are in your optional also. In a GS, the requirement is, the expectation is to do a factual analysis. You are supposed to do a factual analysis of the topic, that whatever topic has been asked, a factual analysis is expected out of you in the general studies. For example, let me give an example. If you get a question, analyze the impact of Operation Sindoor on India-Pakistan relations. If this question you get in the general studies, so you need to do a factual analysis of that. For example, you'll first describe what is Operation Sindoor. Why did India conduct Operation Sindoor? What did India achieve through Operation Sindoor? How India's policy on terrorism has changed because of Operation Sindoor? How Pakistan is fighting a proxy war against India by sponsoring and harboring terrorism against India. You will also describe how Operation Sindoor have had an impact on India-Pakistan relations. So whatever developments have happened regarding Operation Sindoor and India's approach on Pakistan's proxy war strategy, India's approach on dealing with terrorism, you do a factual analysis of that. But if the same question, students, is asked in the optional paper, if the same question is asked in the optional paper, India-Pakistan question, the approach is going to be very different. Why different? Because in the optional, the expectation is not to write a factual, not to do factual analysis. The requirement is to do academic analysis. Academic analysis, because in optional, they expect that you have academic expertise. They are not only expecting just rote learning of facts, they're expecting that you should do academic analysis. They expect academic richness in your answer. That is the expectation of the optional, which is very different from general studies. Now, a lot of you must be wondering that, sir, what is academic analysis? How do I make my answer academically rich? How do I differentiate between factual analysis and academic analysis? I'll help you understand how. First of all, students, you need to understand the requirement, and on the basis of the requirement of the question, you have to structure your answer. Structure your answer. And how do you understand, how do you develop a structure of your answer? The structure of your answer, you can develop an ideal structure if you understand the requirement. And now, how do you understand the requirement of the question? You need to identify the keywords. You need to identify the question tags. For what do I mean by question tags? In each and every question, which you will see in the optional paper, you will see there are certain question tags. For example, explain, elucidate, critically examine, critically evaluate, comment, what do you think, or substantiate, or describe. Such question tags are there. These question tags or directing words, they have certain meanings which will help you understand the requirement of the particular question. If I tell you explain India-Pakistan relations, and if I tell you examine India-Pakistan relations, these two sentences have different meaning. The requirement of these two questions will also change because the question tag has changed, because the directing word has changed. For example, if I tell you explain working of United Nations, and I tell you critically examine working of United Nations, the requirement of the question is different because the directing word, the question tag has changed. So you need to understand. That's what we will teach you in the classes, how to understand this, how to understand the precise requirement and identify the keywords in the question, on the basis of which you can structure your answer. Now, when you structure your answer, you need to make sure that you do academic analysis. You need to make sure that you are able to display academic richness in your answers. How can you do that? You can do that by making use of IR theories. By making use of IR theories, by making use of IR concepts, which you do not do in the GS paper, which is not required in the GS paper. I'll give you an example. For example, in the GS paper, if you're attempting an IR question and you want to write this argument that the world order has changed, because international politics is very dynamic. In the previous century, we had Cold War period. Today, we are living in post-Cold War period. And you want to write this in the exam. You want to argue this in your answer, that the world order has changed from Cold War to post-Cold War, or now moving towards new Cold War. This is what you do in general studies. But if you're writing in the optional, you will not use this language. You will not use this language, Cold War, post-Cold War. You will use the language of IR theories and IR concepts. So you will say, instead of writing that we have moved on from Cold War and now we are in a post-Cold War era, instead of writing this, in your optional answer, you will write, earlier there was a billiard balls world, the concept of billiard balls world given by Arnold Wolfers, and now we are living in a cobweb world. The concept of cobweb world given by John Burton. Or today we are living in a world of complex interdependence, the concept given by Robert Cohen and Joseph Nye. You see, that's what I mean when I say use IR theories and IR concepts. That will bring academic richness in your answer. If it's a GS student, if a GS student writes that the world order has changed from Cold War period, now we have moved on to the post-Cold War period. That is okay. That is acceptable in general studies, but that is not acceptable in optional. In optional, you have to make use of IR theories and concepts. If an optional student, you have to write that from a billiard balls world, the world has now shifted to cobweb or complex interdependence, and also use the names of the experts and scholars who've given these concepts, and also theories who've given these concepts. For example, the billiard balls concept have been given by realist scholar Arnold Wolfers. Cobweb model has been given by the liberal scholar John Burton. So that is what you need to bring in. For example, I'll give you one more example. For example, you're attempting a particular question on global south. There's a question on global south. I hope you know, students, what is global south? Global south is the developing and the poor countries of the world. Post-colonial states, developing countries, they are described as global south. Now you get a question global south in the exam that examine the issues which global south countries may have with environmental negotiations or WTO negotiations. Such a question you have got. Or Bretton Woods institutions like IMF and World Bank. Such a question you've got. Now in a GS paper, if you get a question on global south, you will highlight all the issues which developing countries may have, all the problems which developing countries have in international politics, how developed countries are unable to or are not willing to help the developing countries in their growth and development. You can highlight that in your GS paper. But if the same question is asked in the optional paper, your approach must change. If you're trying to discuss, if in the question answer you're trying to discuss the issues being faced by global south countries, then you should use a IR theory. Which IR theory? You will use the Marxist perspective. Marxist perspective on international politics, because it's the Marxist perspective on IR which says that developed countries have been exploiting the developing nations. There's a theory given, world system theory, given by Emanuel Wallerstein, which has been saying that this theory says developed countries, which are described as core states, have been exploiting the developing countries, which are described as periphery states. And the Emanuel Wallerstein says that there is a drain of wealth from periphery to core. So this is a Marxist perspective which highlights that how globalization has been exploitative as far as developing countries is concerned, as far as global south is concerned. The Marxist perspective highlights that how Bretton Woods institutions, IMF and World Bank have been helping in the exploitation of developing countries, global south countries. That is highlighted by Marxist perspective and Marxist scholars. You need to bring on that. For example, if you get a question, and there has been a question in the examination that India is emerging as the voice of the global south. If you're aware, we are conducting Voice of the Global South summits also. So if you're talking about how India is a champion of the global south, how India has always tried to argue and protect the interests of the global south at the world level, you again have to bring in the Marxist perspective. So for each and every argument, there is a theory, there is a concept which you have to bring in. For example, students, you get a question in the exam that why SAARC has failed. You know what is SAARC? South Asian Association on Regional Cooperation. Why SAARC has failed? One reason why SAARC has failed is, which you can write and which you will also write in your GS paper also, because in GS paper also you can get the question why SAARC has failed. And the one reason of its failure is political instability of South Asian countries. South Asian countries, which includes Nepal or Bangladesh or Sri Lanka, Maldives, Afghanistan, Pakistan, these countries have been politically very unstable. Because of the political instability, South Asian countries are not able to cooperate with each other, because of which regional cooperation in South Asia has failed. That is an argument, valid argument, which you will write in your GS paper also. But when you write the same argument in the optional paper, your approach will change. How your approach will change? You will make use of IR theories and concepts. So which theory you will use here? Theory given by Muhammad Ayub. Muhammad Ayub has given the theory of insecurity dilemma. The developing countries, they suffer from the problem of insecurity dilemma. Why he says developed countries suffer from problem of security dilemma? Because they have external threats. But developing countries, they are insecure not because of external threats, but because of internal threats. Developing countries have internal threats. Political instability is an internal threat. Like recently, you saw Gen Z protest in Nepal. You saw the political unrest in Bangladesh. You saw civil war in Sri Lanka like 2 decades ago. So, because of internal threats, developing countries, they become insecure, which is described as insecurity dilemma. This concept of insecurity dilemma has been given by Muhammad Ayub. So you can quote this as an optional student. You will quote, because of insecurity dilemma, the concept given by Muhammad Ayub, South Asian countries are not able to cooperate with each other and regional cooperation has failed. That is what I mean, academic analysis. That is the difference between academic analysis and factual analysis. So this is what is required. And I can keep on giving you so many more examples. In fact, throughout the course, I'll give you all these examples when we discuss PYQs, how you can include the theory. For example, students, if you get a question on the working of United Nations, if you get a question on the working of United Nations that analyze or examine the working of United Nations, if you get such a question, which you may also get in the GS paper. In the GS paper, you also may get a question, examine working of UN, in which you will highlight how UN has been failing, how the UN has not been able to prevent wars and have not been able to maintain international peace. Therefore, UN desperately needs reforms. Reforms are required, veto reforms, permanent members, changes are required. Countries like India should be made a permanent member. This is what you will write in the general studies also. But when it is an optional, when the same question has been asked in optional, you will use IR theories and concepts. So which IR theories and concepts you can use? If talking about United Nations, you have to highlight the concept of collective security. Collective security concept given by the liberal perspective, given by Woodrow Wilson in the 14-point speech given in the US Congress after First World War. You have to highlight that. You have to highlight theories like idealism. You have to highlight theories like liberal institutionalism. Liberal institutionalism. These are the theories which will help you understand and evaluate and examine working of United Nations. So these IR theories and these IR concepts, you use idealism and liberal perspective, liberal institutionalism, collective security concept. If you want to examine the working of United Nations, this is what will make your answer academically rich. This is what I mean by academic richness. And this is required in optional. And that is why you cannot afford to write GS-like answers in your optional paper. The topics may be similar. You have UN in GS also. You have Pakistan in GS also. But that does not mean that you can write GS-like answers in optional. Then you will never get good marks. If you want to get good marks, if you want to get 300 plus, if you want to get that single-digit rank or double-digit rank, then you have to do this exercise. So that is what is required. That is what will make your PSIR optional answers academically rich answers. And two more ingredients have to be there. First, of course, is theories and proper structure, understanding requirement of the question, theories and concepts, and then students, views of scholars. Views of scholars, views of experts. You have to quote scholars and experts. For each and every topic, for each and every chapter, there are certain scholars which are very important, certain experts which are very important. So whenever you pick up these concepts and theories, important scholars and experts related to these concepts and theories should also be quoted in your answer. Highlighted, underlined. That will also give academic richness to your answer. And that will give you more extra points. And then, in order to highlight contemporary relevance of the theme, you also have to give examples. You also have to give examples. Examples which you can pick up from current affairs, current developments, and link the static portion with the current development. That linkage has to be done. Link static topics with current development. So current affairs, for example, if you're talking about failure of UN, give examples of how UN has failed to prevent Russia-Ukraine war, how UN has failed to prevent the Iran-US war, how UN has failed to prevent human rights violations in Gaza, which has happened recently, where Israelis have killed 70,000 Palestinians, if you're aware, and more than 50% of them are women and children. And then you can highlight feminist perspective in that also. So that contemporary examples also you have to give. So this is the required. This is the approach you have to follow in the optional answer writing, which is very different from GS. GS is only factual analysis. This is academic analysis. So this you have to do. One more thing you have to do while attempting the optional answer, you have to encounter 3 limits in the exam. Which are those 3 limits? First is going to be the word limit. Second is going to be the time limit. And the third is going to be the space limit. Word limit is specified. Then time limit is also there, because in 3 hours, in 180 minutes, you have to attempt 19 questions. So you divide time accordingly. If you waste unnecessary time on one particular question, you will end up not completing the paper. If you're not able to complete the paper, you're already out of race. You're already out of the competition, because competition is very cutthroat. So you have to adhere to a time limit. You also have to adhere to a space limit. Space limit is defined in the UPSC answer script. If you're aware, for 10-mark questions, 150-word questions, you get 2 pages. For 15 marks, you get 3 pages. For 20 marks, you get 4 pages. So you have space limit also, time limit also, word limit also. You have to master skills to overcome these 3 challenges also. This is what you have to do now. Now, students, this is what I've told you. That this is your optional requirement, and these 3 limits you have to encounter. Now, you yourself tell me, Can you develop these skills in the 2.5 months between prelims and mains? Is it possible to develop all of this overnight? No. This needs a lot of practice, a lot of practice. In one day, you cannot develop this skill. In one day, you cannot develop the skill of writing academically rich answers. You have to, for me, it's easy today to just come and say, if it's Global South, use this theory. If it's UN, use this theory. If it's SAARC, use this theory. But for you, it needs a lot of revision, lot of reading, so that you can memorize all of this, that for which theme, which theories are suitable, which concepts are suitable. All this requires a lot of practice, lot of time you have to devote. And that's what we intend to do in the next coming 6 months. In the coming 6 months, we will do this precisely. Like I told you, every week we'll pick up 2 chapters. We'll do all PYQs and we'll have a test. And on a weekly basis, you'll be able to complete the syllabus and also develop all these skills. We will teach you in the class how to develop all these skills. Evaluated feedback will be given to you. Model answers will be given to you. Test discussion will also happen. PYQ discussions will also happen. So you get all possible help to develop these skills and all possible help to also encounter these 3 limits: word limit, time limit, and a space limit. How to say more in less words. How to express more in less words. How to, complete the examination and write qualitative answers. All of that, this needs practice. And that's what we intend to do in the next 6 months. So this is how you have to go about. So this is what is required. All those students who are able to develop this skill set, they are the only ones who get very good marks. And they are the only ones who end up acing the PSIR paper. And your optional is make or break. Your optional can, increase the probability of your selection. Good score in optional can propel your rank, and also make sure you get a very good rank and get selected. A bad optional score can also pull you down. Your entire hard work you've done in GS and essay may go for a waste if you get a very bad score in optional. So you cannot take this lightly. And UPSC of lately, we have realized, have started doing very strict marking. They're only rewarding those PSIR students who are adhering to these requirements. They are not rewarding those PSIR students who are writing GS-like answers in your PSIR paper. So you need to develop this. So that's what we intend to do in the next 6.5 months with you in this particular course, help you develop all these skill sets. And like I told you, 1 week in advance, we'll tell you the chapters we have picked up for the week. And we also expect you, one thing I also need to highlight here. I am also telling you this, a lot of other people, experts, and also selected candidates must be highlighting this for you, that if you want to get selected, then you need to do a lot of answer writing. Answer writing is very important. But at times, students, they make a mistake. When everybody is telling them answer writing is important, they directly start jumping to answer writing. They said that jump to answer writing. They said, let's start with answer writing only. No, that's not what you need to do. Answer writing is important, but you cannot, there are stages to answer writing. Answer writing is the last stage. You cannot jump to the last stage. You need to go through the initial stages. Which are the initial stages? Initial stages are reading of all your notes. Reading, memorizing, revising, then writing. If you cannot do the first 3 stages, you cannot do the 4th one also. That is why 1 week time will be given for you for 2 chapters. Every week we'll only pick up 2 chapters. We'll give you 5 to 6 days for those 2 chapters. Those 2 chapters, read your notes, memorize, revise. And on the weekend, we discuss PYQs and you write a test. There has to be a process. You have to follow the process. You cannot skip all stages. I know students, what do? They say answer writing is most important. They keep the book in front of them and start writing. How is that going to help you? How is that going to help you that you have your notes in front of you and you're just copying your notes and writing? That's not going to help you. You have to be exam ready. For that, the initial stages are very important. So throughout the week, when you give you 5 to 6 days for self-study, those 5-6 days you have to utilize to memorize, read, memorize, and revise the notes of those 2 chapters, so that you are in the right frame of mind to discuss PYQs also. Because if you know the topic, then only PYQs you can discuss with me. If you do not know the topic, then PYQs also would not make any sense to you. Then you attend the PYQ lecture, then you write a test. That's how every week we will go. We will follow process weekly basis. And that's how you'll be able to complete the entire syllabus also, memorize also, develop answer writing also. Answer writing is very important, but it's the last stage. You cannot skip the initial stages. So that's why on a weekly basis, we'll have only one test, and you'll get one full week to write your test. For all the lazy souls who are not able to write on the given day, we'll give you 5-6 more days also. We'll have relaxation also for you. But my recommendation is follow the schedule. My recommendation is don't do procrastination. बेटा procrastination तो कर ही लिया होगा अभी तक बहुत ज्यादा. ये जो आंसर राइटिंग है पिछले साल भी करना चाहिए था, नहीं किया, इस साल कर रहे हो, और कितना प्रोक्रेस्टिनेट करोगे? तो मत करो इसको. माय रिकमेंडेशन इज फॉलो द शेड्यूल. संडे को टेस्ट है, संडे को ही लिखो, मंडे को लिख दो ज्यादा से ज्यादा. ऐसा ना हो 6 महीने बाद लिखना है, देन व्हाट इज द पॉइंट? सो डोंट डू दैट. ओके, विल गिव यू वन फुल वीक to write the test. During that week, preferably in the first couple of days of the week itself, you write the test so that you can start reading for the next test. Otherwise, what will happen? Everything will get delayed. If you delay the first test, you'll not be able to read about for the second test. If you don't read for the second test, PYQ lecture will also doesn't make any sense for you. For example, अभी मैंने आपसे डिस्कस किया, ये सब चीज बताया आपको. I told you about billiard balls model and the cobweb model. अगर आपको ये दोनों मॉडल ही नहीं पता तो आपको मेरी बात समझ ही नहीं आई होगी. आप यू वुड नॉट अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू से इफ यू डू नॉट नो अबाउट दिस मॉडल्स. यही होगा पीवाईक्यू क्लास में. इफ यू डू नॉट नो द टॉपिक, देन पीवाईक्यू डिस्कशन आल्सो वुड नॉट मेक एनी सेंस टू यू. दैट इज व्हाई ज्यादा नहीं कर रहे. एक हफ्ते में बस 2 चैप्टर उठाएंगे, और उस एक हफ्ते में आपको 5 to 6 डेज मिलेंगे जिसमें आपको वो 2 चैप्टर्स के नोट्स रीड करने हैं, मेमोराइज करने हैं, रिवाइज करने हैं. जबकि आप सैटरडे को हमारे पास आओ, व्हेन यू कम ऑन द वीकेंड, you already are very well aware about the topic so that you can participate in the PYQ discussion and then write the test. ये प्रोसेस बेटा फॉलो करना है. अगर नहीं फॉलो करेंगे फिर ये कोर्स भी आपको हेल्प नहीं कर पाएगा. So don't procrastinate. Okay, you don't procrastinate. Follow the schedule. We'll be very flexible with you, but you follow the schedule with a lot of discipline, and then this can help you. So this is the whole course which we have designed for you, and I hope it will help all of you. So I would now invite Sushant sir. He would also discuss few things about the course with you, especially about political science, paper 1, PSIR paper 1. Clear, all the online students, all of you have understood whatever I've discussed with you? Okay. So, and once Sushant sir has finished his discussion with you, then we'll open up for Q&A. Then we'll take all your queries and questions. Okay. Okay, fine, students. Thank you.
Now, hello everybody. Now, since Iqbal sir has already focused on the nuances of the answer writing, I will not be going into that detail. Now, what I will be focusing here is how to approach paper 1. Okay. Now, in paper 1, if I take up 2 sample questions, okay. Why I'm taking up that sample question? Because you have to keep in mind that if you analyze the PYQs, UPSC has asked question on few particular themes. So when you prepare for mains examination, you have to keep in mind what are those themes so that you can reorient your preparation accordingly. Okay. And how on the same question, also on the same topic, different questions have been asked. So as Iqbal sir pointed out, that the primary thing for you is to understand the demand of the question. And to understand demand of the question, you have to first identify the keywords of that along with the question tags, interrelate them to understand demand of the question, and keep in mind, understanding demand of the question is the first fundamental thing. As I often say in our optional classes also, that 50% of your task, half of your task is done if you identify the demand of the question correctly. Then rest of the half is identifying the proper structure of that answer. And demands of various questions asked on same topic will be different. Okay. And if you are not writing as per the demand of the question, the marks which you will be getting obviously will be not as per your expectation. And this explains the discrepancy, why there's a gap between students' expectation and the actual marks which they got. Okay. And keep in mind that your selection is determined by not only how much you know, but what you are actually writing in those 180 minutes as per demand of the question. And as Iqbal sir pointed out that, in paper 1 section B, that is Indian government and politics, and paper 2 section B, Indian foreign policy, most of the students take it for granted. In fact, in our test series also we find that many students, no, they take it for granted that okay, we know Indian polity, so we can write the same answer in section B also. And that explains a fatal error which they are committing, and that is why they're not able to get the marks. Okay, so if I use it with the example of a representative sample, okay, suppose if I discuss a question related to Plato. Plato is the first thinker which you study in Western political thought, and this question was asked in mains 2025. Okay, so the theme is basically related to criticism of Plato, analysis of Plato. That is Plato, the intellectual forerunner of modern day totalitarian regimes. Okay, so mains 2025, one question was asked, was question 2B, and this question says Karl Popper presents a defense of the open society against its enemies. Open society against its enemies. Elaborate. This is the first question on Karl Popper's theme, Karl Popper's criticism of Plato, that Plato is a supporter of closed society. Conversely, Plato is an enemy of open society. And the same question was asked in mains 2015. And the question is 3A. It says, Plato was an enemy of the open society. Plato was an enemy of the open society. And question was comment. And it is versus Popper. So Plato was an enemy of open society. It was statement of Popper, and it says comment. Now, if you see these two questions closely, both is comment of Plato. Sorry, comment of Popper. Now, the first question, the difference between first question and second question is demand of the question. Okay. And as I say, always proceed by identifying the keywords. If you see the 2025 question, it says Popper presents a defense of the open society against its enemies, and keyword is elaborate. For this, you need to be clear about one thing. What is open society, first of all? Only when you understand what is open society, then only you will be able to understand how Plato was critical of enemies of open society. So in open society, for example, how to start this answer? Now, one of the best way to start the answer is with a quotation. Like Popper had given quotation in his book. The name of his book was Open Society and Its Enemies. So you can start with the quotation. Plato, Marx, and Hegel were enemies of open society. Now, what is an open society? Where there is freedom of speech and expression, where you can freely criticize those in power, where there is freedom of thought and action, where nobody has a monopoly of ideological wisdom, and where people are allowed to develop freely without any outward supervision. This is the definition of an open society. In fact, it is said that Socrates died for an open society. Remember, Socrates was charged with corrupting the mind of youth of Athens. He was asked to compromise. He said, no. The role of an intellectual is speaking truth to power, that you are criticizing what the rulers are doing. And Socrates was clear that the rulers of Athens were ignorant. So where there is ability to criticize the rulers without any fear, where nobody has the monopoly of truth, and where you can develop freely, that is an open society. And who are enemies of open society? Those who support closed society. What is a closed society? Reverse of open society. So this question, the first question was, presents a defense of the open society against its enemies. Who were enemies of open society in view of Plato? As I said, it is Plato, Hegel, and Marx. So in this answer, you have to elaborate how Plato, Hegel, and Marx were enemies of the open society. So Popper says, for example, that in Plato's ideal state, which is sketched in his book Republic, we find that he was an enemy of the open society because he supported closed society, and closed society had three philosophical underpinnings. So you have to explain what Popper says historicism, what is essentialism, what is historicism. So this way you have to explain holism, essentialism, and historicism. And then you have to give in the keywords like what Popper says, falsification, what Popper says, science never claims finality. You have to talk about falsification and how instead of radical changes, revolutionary changes, Popper supported was piecemeal social engineering. Popper supported piecemeal social engineering. And three key tendencies, as I said, were holism, historicism, and essentialism. So how these tendencies are reflected in thoughts of these thinkers, you have to elaborate. For example, Marx said, my socialism is scientific socialism. This is how laws of historical development has taken place. And this law of historical development, historical materialism, tells me that end will be final end will be communist society, which he says is the end of history. This is what Marx said. What Hegel said, it is state is the march of God on earth, end point of mankind's evolution, that is nation state. So how these tendencies were reflected in both ideas of Plato, Hegel, and Marx. Holism, where individual is made subordinate to the collective. In Plato's ideas, that collective was state. In Marx's ideas, that collective was class. In Hegel ideas, it is nation state. Essentialism, Plato and Hegel were idealists. They said idea is the essence, which is reflected in Plato's theory of form. That form and matter, form belong to that world, the world of intelligence, and matter is a part of this world, the world of senses. They cannot be united. So when Hegel comes, Hegel also says that essence is idea is primary, matter is secondary. Marx comes in and reverses it. Says Hegel standing on his head, I made him stand on his feet. Matter is primary, idea is secondary. So how these tendencies are there in ideas of Plato, Hegel, and Marx, you have to elaborate. And what is piecemeal social engineering? It is incremental changes. Marx talked about the revolution. He said, workers of all world unite. You have nothing to lose but your chains. This revolution will lead to a better society, that is communist society. Plato says, the existing ruler of Athens are corrupt because of ignorance and incompetence. Let us scrap this state and create a new state, ideal state, ruled by philosopher king. His radical solution, communism of wife and property. Do not allow any property to the guardian class. Do not allow a private family to the guardian class. And he said, economic power and political power should be kept separate. Radical solution. So Popper says, no. Instead of radical solution, we should go for social engineering, piecemeal social engineering, gradual reforms. And Marx says historicism, that history is governed by certain fixed laws. Science never claims finality. What is important is falsification, that our existing beliefs and practices should be subject to scrutiny to falsify them. Any proposition is true as long as it is not falsified. In an open society, there is a freedom to criticize existing beliefs. In a closed society, there is no freedom. What we saw in totalitarian regimes of Hitler. Hitler said Germans are the master race. Why? Because Hitler as a leader has monopoly of ideological wisdom. And Hitler's state exercised total control of all aspects of individual's life, public sphere and private sphere. No debate, no dissent, no discussion. Same was case of Plato's ideal state also. Whatever the philosopher ruler said, whichever categorization of talent done by philosopher ruler, that has to be made final. If you read Plato's education system, that how he says censorship should be there, how he even prescribed diet control, how he even said that certain music, certain literature should not be allowed. So state supervising evolution of individuals. That is just reverse of the open society. So here in this question, you have to explain who are the enemies of open society. First, what is an open society? Who are the enemies of open society? Plato, Marx and Hegel. And how these three philosophical tendencies of closed society are visible in Plato's ideas, Marx's ideas and Hegel's ideas. And how instead of revolutionary change, Popper supported incremental change, which allows us to rectify our mistakes. That's what we call as piecemeal social engineering. So these keywords should reflect. Here to just elaborate. Second question is specific with relation to Plato. So if I say Plato was an enemy of the open society, and question is comment. So what does comment means? It's not elaboration. Comment means both positives and then negatives. Criticism also you have to give. So what were the main features of Plato's ideal state which made Popper regard that he is an enemy of open society? And these are the same tendencies. So here you have to confine your answer with respect to Plato only. The same keywords will come. Historicism, holism, essentialism, piecemeal social engineering. Plato said individual should sacrifice his interest for the interest of the state. Remember his theory of justice. What was justice? Functional specialization, non-interference, harmony. Everybody has to perform that task to the best of his ability. It was more about duty. So guardian class will not have family, will not have luxury. Why? Because that will lead to dissension in the society. So you have to explain how these tendencies was visible in Plato's ideas, education, communism, of wives, if I say in other ideas of Plato. But the question says comment, criticize that. So who disagrees with Popper's criticism? Levinson disagrees, Nisbet, C.M. Joad, Vapor. For example, C.L. Vapor says, Plato's book, The Republic, Justice, the entire focus of justice was exploring justice in the individual. And justice in the state was examined precisely because state is individual writ large. State is a magnified version of individual. Quality of the individual perfected the quality of the state. And state existed for the perfection of individual. So other scholars say, entire Plato's philosophy was based on happiness of the individual. And he, despite great similarity, we cannot say that Plato was an inspiration for fascist state. Then you have to conclude your answer. You can conclude about that Popper's is a great critic of Plato, but even Popper recognized the greatness of Plato. That in his famous comment he says that one can either be Platonic or anti-Platonic, never non-Platonic. Plato has been the reference point. That is his greatness. That even today, after 2500 years, we are studying Plato. So that's why the first fundamental thing I say is to understand demand of the question. So demand of the question depend on identifying the keywords and linking it with question tags to understand the demand. Here question tag is elaborate, content will be different. Here question tag is comment, content will be different. Here question tag is enemies. Here here keyword is enemies. Here keyword is enemy. So here you have to confine with respect to Plato along with criticism. Here you have to just explain how They were enemies of open society, plural, and the keyword is elaborate. And this subtle difference we need to understand. What most of the students do is that, unfortunately, that they write what they know rather than what is being asked. And that explains the difference between the marks which they expect and the marks which they get. This is true for optional, this is true for GS also. So we will be focusing on various themes on which UPSC has asked PYQs, and this will help you prepare in a better manner. Keep in mind, some students are very brilliant that they have great answer writing skill, but I'm talking about majority of the students. You can also become like them provided you work in the right direction, and this course is precisely meant for that thing. Similarly, if I asked that in IGP, and this Iqbal sir has also pointed out that you have to write an academic rich answer in section B. The same question you will be getting in GS Polity also. The same question you will be getting in optional also. And if you're writing GS answer in optional, you'll not get good marks. Every optional has its rigor, its own keywords, its own requirement. If you're not doing that, not fulfilling that requirement, you will not get the marks. For example, if I take up one of the question is role of caste in politics. So role of caste in politics, what you will be writing in GS Polity? That is, caste is an important determinant of politics. How? Caste is, it plays a role in selection of the candidate, depends upon the constituency. What is the caste composition of the constituency? Political parties, their policies and programs also are tailor-made for caste. We find that in the allocation of ministries, in the government schemes and programs which are implemented, all the caste is a major consideration. For example, presidential election will take place next year. 5 years back, when there was a presidential candidate, BJP's candidate was Draupadi Murmu, the first tribal woman to occupy. Tribal women, that is a identity politics. But if you are writing the same answer in PSIR, here you have to use theories which you have studied in paper 1 section A, along with concepts and views of the scholars, that will make your answer academically rich. For example, if you are writing about role of caste in Indian politics, you have to mention name of scholars like Rajni Kothari, name of scholars like Yogendra Yadav, like if I say Ashutosh Varshney, to name a few. Caste politics is a part of identity politics, and caste has helped in mobilization of the people along that identity. So Rajni Kothari says that caste has played a positive role in Indian politics. Politicization of caste is almost the same as casteism in politics. And those who complain of that politics should be conducted casteless, what Rajni Kothari says, they are looking for a politics which has no basis in Indian society. Surinder Jotka says caste is core of India. And how Rajni Kothari says, if you compare India with third world countries, one of the reasons for success of Indian democracy is caste. So he says caste has played a lot of positive role in Indian politics. Yogendra Yadav talks about first democratic upsurge and second democratic upsurge. First democratic upsurge, 1967 elections. Second democratic upsurge, 1990s, Mandal commissions. So how caste led to emergence of many caste-based parties, particularly in North India, RJD, Samajwadi Party, BSP, etc., that even forced the other parties to accommodate OBCs, other backward classes. First, Ashutosh Varshney says that it was southernization of North Indian politics, that caste politics had matured earlier in South India. In North India, politics was conducted along religious axis, Hindu-Muslim axis. Now, Indian politics in North India has gone southern way. Caste is an important component. But at the same time, caste has some negative consequences. What Ghanshyam Shah says, it has led to parochialism. How there in recent elections have said that development sometimes trumps caste politics also. But it does not mean that caste is not important. You have to discuss views of Christopher Zafrelé here. When Zafrelé says silent revolution, that what Mandal Commission recommendations have led to silent revolution. And this is how you have to write academically rich answer. Caste politics is a part of identity politics. And this will differentiate your answer from that of a GS answer. If you're not writing that, views of the scholars, the theories and concepts, you're not able to get good marks. Caste, for example, has also been linked to affirmative action. What is affirmative action? That you study in paper 1 section equality. Is affirmative action a part of social justice? Yes. Social justice is empowerment of the weaker sections, historically disadvantaged sections. What Ambedkar said about social justice, that no, socio-economic democracy is meaningless without, political democracy is meaningless without socio-economic democracy. Socio-economic democracy are tissues and fibers of democracy, Ambedkar said. And that's what affirmative action aims to do. So this is how you have to emphasize on writing an academically rich answer in paper 1 section B. So your approach will be different in GS, your approach will be different in PSIR. In optional, you have to go a bit deeper. So this is how you should keep that in mind. So primary thing is that you have to address the demand of the question as per the optional paper. And trust me, if you are doing that, you will be able to score very good marks, 270 plus. Else you will remain stuck in, if I say bracket of 220, 230 average marks. Again, if I give you one example, that one of the questions which UPSC has asked, and this is also a topic in paper 1 section B, topic number 10, determinants of voting behavior. Now this determinants of voting behavior, obviously while writing about this, obviously one of the determinant is caste. But how to write in an optional rich answer? You have to link it with behavioralism. So what was behavioralism? A movement to make the study of politics more scientific. Instead of studying the institutions, legislature, executive and judiciary, you have to focus on real actual behavior of the people, how the people behave as a voter, as a power holder, as a power seeker. And that's how, what are the psychological influences, what are the social influences which impact these set of people. So exit poll is example of behavioralism, that why did you vote, opinion polls, and see Trump's rating has been declining. The purpose is obviously that how behavior is impacted by other influences. If you are feeling the pinch of inflation, obviously you will say government is not doing the job. So this is how you have to link it. Okay. Now how we approach if a question comes on Ladakh issues, social political groupings, statues. Ladakh is an example of ethnic politics. So you have to link it with ethnicity. Ladakh is demanding special rights for the people, 6th scheduled status. That you can also link with multiculturalism. So keep in mind, NCST, National Commission for Scheduled Tribes, had recommended scheduled tribe status to people of Ladakh, and it had recommended 6th scheduled status to Ladakh. So these are the various approaches, concepts, theories which you learn in section A to be applicable in section B, along with views of the scholars that you have to write. And do not put the views of the scholars indiscriminately. What is important is relevant scholars. So not what you know, but what is being asked in that sense. So this is how we will be proceeding, and keep in mind, as Iqbal sir has already emphasized, it's not a foundation course, it's not an explanation class. We will be assuming that you have gone through the concepts, you have conceptual clarity. The point is we will teach you how to apply it while satisfying the demand of the question. So various theme based discussions will be there on topic, and you will be informed in advance, and that you can proceed further. So with this, just a brief discussion on how we are going to proceed in IGP section as well as in this section A, political theory. Now I request, just hold on, colleague Balsan. Now we will make the floor open for your Q&As, questions and answers. And keep in mind that we are going to take up the questions soon. Okay. And keep in mind that this 6.5 months you are with us. Now, at the end of the course, you will find a definite improvement in your answer writing skills, and that will definitely be a big booster to your confidence. And one of the critical factor in this examination is also your confidence. Confidence comes from good preparation, and the real test is in mains. Keep in mind, if I give an analogy of test cricket, where the real quality of a batter is tested in test match. Prelims is like one day international, and interview is like T20 match. So the way the real metal of a batter is tested in test match, your metal will be tested in mains. And mains is in your hand. Get the maximum marks in mains. Even if you get the average marks in interview, you can still break into top 50. And that is PSIR is a part of main specific preparation. Okay, so this is the best time. In 6.5 months, you will be mains ready, and then you can straight away switch to prelims preparation. Okay, now floor is open for Q&A. Yes. How many questions are there in weekly theme-based test? As Iqbal sir pointed out, it will be around 40 marks, depending on the topics taught. There may be 4 10 markers, there may be 2 20 marks question. It all be mixed. Okay. Can we get the updated notes for content reading and updation? Updated notes, content reading and updation. Okay, selectively we can help you in that. Okay.
For the dynamic topics, if any new developments have happened, and the updated material will give to all the answer writing students, so that if current developments are taking place on a particular topic, so the latest updated material you must have, study material, that will help you with the dynamic topics also.
Now, test series is starting on 11th of July, where we will be conducting an orientation class, and then we will straight away shift to PYQ discussion. And keep in mind, we will be making it a mix of paper 1 and paper 2, so that the gradual coverage of both the papers is carried on simultaneously. Yes. See, test will be on weekends, Saturday or Sunday. Okay, test will be on Saturday, you can say.
Sir, if these classes are online live, then can't be attended offline?
No, classes PYQ discussion will be held online, live. If you want to write the test, you can write the test offline.
You can give the test offline. You can come to the classroom and write the test offline, but the PYQ discussion would be online live discussion. You'll join online, and on online, like two students have joined today, or whatever doubts and queries you would have, we'll address all your doubts and queries online also. Okay.
Now,
live discussion online we'll have with you. It's more would be a recorded video. A live online class will have with you.
The test discussion happen on the same day. It's not. Suppose in the first, we are starting on 11th of July. So we'll be discussing bit of answer writing, and then we'll discuss PYQs. We will give you 5-6 days to write that test, and then next week, that is 18th July, we will be discussing first the questions which have been asked in the test, and then we'll proceed to discuss the
PYQs.
theme-based PYQ discussion.
In the PYQ lecture, we'll discuss the test which were asked, the questions which were asked in the previous test, and I will discuss PYQs for the next chapters. That's all we'll integrate. Okay.
This video is for test series, yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
So like I told you in my discussion also, the whole purpose, the idea is to integrate test writing and PYQ. That has to be integrated, then only it makes sense for all of you. That's what we will do. When we'll do PYQ discussions with you, we'll also discuss those questions which were asked in the weekly test, so that you are better prepared for the next test. We'll do that also. And of course, model answers. And students are also asking that feedback. So we'll give you model answers for all your tests, all questions which are asked, and also evaluate feedback. For feedback, it depends when you write the test. Whenever you write the test, you can expect a feedback within 6 to 7 days. It will take 6 to 7 days to evaluate all answer copies and give it to you. If you're writing the test late, then of course the feedback would also come late. So that's one thing you need to take into. Whenever you submit, within the 6 to 7 days, within that week itself, you will be getting your evaluated feedback.
And keep in mind, if you want to get the best from this answer writing course, please be on, attempt the tests on time. That is crucial, because this way you will be able to cover the entire syllabus smoothly in 6.5 months. Okay.
Yeah, feedback would be also, Himanshi, given to online students also. All the online students, their copies. Online students, you can come and write the test offline as well and submit offline. If you cannot do that, then you can write the test and submit your copy, scanned copy online, and we'll digitally evaluate and send back the feedback to you. Okay. So for online students also, detailed feedback, evaluated feedback would be given to all of you for the online copies as well.
Now, which experts to focus on? Obviously, the domain experts. Like in newspapers, you'll be seeing the views of Yukendra Yadav, Pratap Bhanu Mehta, and other scholars as far as Indian government and politics is concerned. Similarly, for IR, you can also know that Iqbal sir will be discussing how you can rely on the articles written by important diplomats, important scholars as well.
For each, and like sir is pointing out, for each and every chapter and theme, there are certain experts, well-renowned experts, which we'll let you know in our PYQ discussions. In our PYQ discussions, we'll let you know which are the most important experts, which you should quote for a particular theme. For example, for UN, there's a certain set of experts. For example, India's former permanent representatives to United Nations. Their viewpoints are very important when it comes to topic of India and UN. And then liberal scholars, for their viewpoint on UN is very important. So we'll let you know for each and every theme. In fact, I would recommend to all of you that during this whole course, you should make your short notes where you write the name of the chapter and all the important scholars and experts related to that chapter. That short one-pagers should be there with you for each and every chapter, which can be very handy when you do the final revision. So we'll help you do that as well because each and every theme, there are, for realism, the different scholars, for liberalism, different scholars, for Marxism, different scholars. So we'll help you do that when we discuss PYQs. So you can do that as well. A bit of for test discussion and for PYQ discussion, like I've specified, it's online live discussion, and tests you can come and write offline. Okay. And you can come and meet us offline whenever you want to have any personal session with any one of us. Both of us would be available. We'll make a Telegram group for all of you where you can seek our appointment and come and have a meeting with us. If you have any personal doubts regarding the topics and answer writing and evaluation, we'll be there. We can schedule a meeting. We'll meet here in the institute. Don't worry about that. Okay. Anything else?
This course is not for the beginners.
Yeah, not for the beginners. As I told you, this is a next level course. Foundation course, then this is the next level course. Now, if you, अगर आपने PSIR नहीं पढ़ा है, आपको टॉपिक्स ही नहीं पता है अभी, तो फिर नहीं आप कर पाओगे कुछ इस कोर्स में. Fine. फिर आप भी फ्रस्ट्रेट होगे कि सर तो PYQ डिस्कस कर रहे हैं और मुझे तो चैप्टर ही नहीं आता, इसमें क्या है, मुझे तो यही नहीं मालूम प्लेटो कौन है, तो मैं PYQ डिस्कस करके क्या करूं. So उसके लिए नहीं है. That's a clarification we want to give. We're assuming all of you who would come in this course, you have done PSIR Foundation. That means your syllabus and understanding of all topics is complete. Yes, every week you will have to do revision and memorizing of your notes. Revision, reading, revising, memorizing of your notes, and then write the test. So it's, if you haven't done PSIR foundation, then this may not help you. Okay. And even if you have done PSIR on your own, for example, if you're a political science student in some college or university and you are very well aware about political science topics, you have studied political science on your own, then also this course can help you. Okay.
When should be a beginner start answer writing? Along with preparation. When you're starting your preparation, suppose you have completed any topic of GS or optional, go through the PYQs, practice those PYQs in light of whatever concepts you had mastered while preparing. So it should be done simultaneously. Okay.
No, Achyut, this is not for the GS batches. This is for PSIR optional students who would want to develop answer writing. They can become part of this program and then they will have regular tests. The foundation batches are already going on, Shrikant. The next upcoming batch is in month of September. On around 10th of September, the next optional batch will start if you want to do an optional PSIR foundation batch. And 2 batches are already going on, so you are now late to join them. But September batch, 10th September, you can join if you want to. Shrikant Reddy.
Any further questions?
Minimize the YouTube video. Fine, students. Any more questions? Clear to all of you? All the online students, I hope you all of you have understood what we're trying to discuss here. So thank you, students. Thank you. See you in the classroom now. 11th of July, we'll have the first orientation lecture on this particular course. Basically, it would be like an answer writing workshop so that we can start with PYQ discussions. Okay.
Himanshu, if you are in our foundation batch, you need not join it. Okay.
Okay. Fine. Okay. Thank you, students. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.